Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We're here again for Bible study. We're continuing from the book of Proverbs. Today's lesson will come from chapter 17. The subject of our lessons from Proverbs 17 will be the more excellent way. And we know that's the spiritual way, according to 1 Corinthians, the 13th chapter, which is the chapter of love. So thank you so much for viewing with me today, and we'll get into the lesson, but I just cannot tell you how much I appreciate those of you who view, and some of you are sending your thoughts about how the lessons are helping you. So I thank you for that. We'll begin today. Proverbs 17:1 says, "Better is a dry morsel and quietness therewith than a house full of sacrifices with strife." So it's better to have a dry piece of bread for your meal, where there's peace in the house, rather than all the riches in the world, and in that is strife and contention amongst those who are in that family. And strife and contention is what happens when material things become more important than human beings, more than family and people. When things take precedent over everything else. Verse 2, "A wise servant shall have rule over a son that causes shame, and shall have part of the inheritance among the brethren." Now this verse looks forward to the second coming, when there will be nations called the sheep nations who will befriend the nation Israel during the tribulation period, and they will befriend them, as in Matthew 25, where Jesus asks, I make the statement that when I was hungry, you fed me, and when I was in prison, you visited me, when I was sick, you came to see about me. And they will ask, well, when did we do these things? He'll say, in that you've done these things unto the least of my brethren, you've done it unto me. And also in our daily lives, when we are helping people along the way, God counts it to our credit that we are not destructive people, but we are helpful to those who are less fortunate than us. But just because you are the heir of something, it may mean that the servant will have rule over you because you're bringing the family to shame. And God says in 17 verse 3, "The fining pot is for silver and the furnace for gold, but the Lord tried the heart." So just as silver is refined in the fining pot, and as gold is mined in the furnace, God refines our hearts. This is where in the New Testament we read a lot for us getting instructions saying, put this on and put something else off. Well, this refining process is called sanctification. And when we're putting on, for instance, the whole armor of God, we're following after the Spirit of Christ. But when we're told to put something off or put off lying or stealing or covetousness, to put those things off, that means we deny ourselves and or reject whatever is before us as not being a part of our character. So we're constantly putting on the Spirit of Christ and taking off the garments of the flesh. A wicked doer giveth heed to false lips, and a liar giveth ear to a naughty tongue. The wicked are those who have rejected the truth and have chosen to follow the ways of evil. And we know that Satan is a liar and he's the father of lies. And so when a wicked doer is listening to anybody, he's looking from the one who will tell him what he wants to hear. He doesn't care about truth. He's just following after the evil spirit of lying and deceit. Verse 5, whoso mocketh the poor reproaches his maker. Whoever it is that mocks a poor man is opposing the Lord, or his maker is his creator. We are not to mock or despise the poor, but we are to be helpers as we are able to. And he that is glad at calamity shall not be unpunished. Even though your enemy may fall into trouble, it's not good for us as believers to rejoice over somebody else's fall or someone else's calamity. Children's children are the crown of old men, and the glory of children are their fathers. One thing I've learned by studying the Bible these so many years is that you never read in the Bible about grandchildren or great-grandchildren. You read about children's children. And where sometimes brothers and uncles are called nephews. You don't read about the grandchildren. So verse 6, children's children are the crown of old men. Nothing makes an old man prouder than his grandchildren. And they get called by names like Pawpaw and Papa and whatever pet name it is that our grandchildren pick up to call their granddad. And then on the other hand, the children, the glory of children is getting their approval. Children love to have their mother's approval, but it's much more important to children to have their father's approval. And so excellent speech becometh not a fool. Now this excellent speech is the more excellent way, which is the way of love, when we use our words to bring grace to the hearers. Is one thing, but a fool does not know how to use gracious words. So excellent speech becometh not a fool, much less do lying lips a prince. Any world leader, any president, prime minister, or whatever the highest officer of the land is called, it is not good for that person to be labeled and known to be a liar. It is worse at this point than being a fool as saying that there is no God. Verse 8, a gift is as a precious stone in the eyes of him that hath it. Whithersoever it turneth, it prospers. So when God gives us gifts, spiritual gifts and material gifts, we appreciate those gifts and we use them caringly. They're like a precious gem, like a jacinth or a diamond or a pearl. The gift is precious, and wherever we use that gift, it's going to prosper. Now, if you look over at verse 16 of chapter 18, you'll see, this is Proverbs 18, verse 16, a man's gift maketh room for him, and bringeth him before great men. In the short term, it may look like nothing is happening, but God looks at things from an eternal perspective, and that gift is going to make room for the person who has it, because that person appreciates it and takes care of it and use it faithfully. He that covereth, we're at back to Proverbs 17, verse 9. He that covereth a transgression seeketh love or approval, but he that repeateth a matter separateth very friends, or separate best friends. So those of us, when we recognize we've sinned against God and trespassed against our brother, if we confess our sins and confess our faults one to another, we receive God's approval, and we're seeking to follow after the more excellent way, which is love. But a person that keeps doing the same thing over and over again, eventually their strife is going to separate best friends. Verse 10, a reproof or corrective words entereth more into a wise man than 100 stripes into a fool. It's like beating the air to try to correct a fool, because the fool has already decided that there is no God, and he does not care about the things that other people may be affected by. So you can beat him 100 times and it will not change his way. But words of correction, and I call it constructive criticism. I invite people to correct me. If I'm doing something and you know that what I'm doing is wrong, but I think it's right, it's better for you to tell me the truth about that thing. Now, it's up to me as to whether or not I receive it, but if I'm a believer and you've given me words of correction, then I'm going to think about it. I'm not going to be able to just ignore what you said. I'm going to be thinking about it and meditating upon it, and then I can come to the conclusion that you were right, and then I'll begin to live in a more effective way. And that's very appreciated. I would rather be corrected now than corrected at the judgment seat of Christ. Verse 11, an evil man seeketh only rebellion. Therefore a cruel messenger shall be sent against him. A evil person, all you have to do is let time have its way. That person will self-destruct. He'll do things or say things or make decisions that are bad for him, his own self. And so this cruel messenger shall be sent against him. And that's just simply saying he'll be against himself, because this cruel messenger is that evil spirit that's working in his thought life and in his what he believes. Verse 12, let her bear robbed of her whelps or her cubs meet a man rather than a fool in his folly. It is more dangerous to have an entanglement with a mother bear than it is to get into an argument with a fool. It's not gonna end well. And so anybody who knows anything about animals know that a mother bear should not be tampered with. She will tear someone to pieces about her cubs. Whoso rewarded or repays evil for good, evil shall not depart from his house or from his family. We get upset about how things are going on in the world, and evil is everywhere. There's trouble on every hand. And it's like people are getting away doing evil things against other people. But it's just a matter of time. People get by. Nobody gets away. Because whatsoever man soweth, that shall he also reap. And that's by the sovereign hand of Almighty God. Verse 14, the beginning of strife is as when one letteth out water. Therefore leave off contention before it be meddled with. If ever you've seen dam break, a barrier to keep water within the confines of a certain area, if that dam breaks and that water runs free, it is easier you will not be able to control that flow. And so rather than enter into arguments and strife, it's better to answer a person with a soft answer, and the soft answer will turn away strife. It's better not to argue, and God expects us to be ministers of solving problems, not causing problems. But the beginning of strife is as when one letteth out water, is uncontrolled. It's just out of control. So it's better to leave off strife before you get into the argument at the first place. We are to be ambassadors of peace. He that justifieth the wicked and he that condemneth the just, even they both are an abomination to the Lord. They are vile and corrupt, repulsive to the Lord. If you look at the world today and you see how innocent people are being condemned in a way that is so violent, and you see violent people being justified for their actions, then you know that God is repulsed by that. And yet, at the same time, this is going on every day. But as I said before, people get by, they do not get away. Wherefore is there a price in the hand of a fool to get wisdom, seeing he had no heart to it? It's worthless for a person who has decided to earn that he can do enough good works to earn his salvation. It is foolish for that person to think that he will get wisdom from God, because the beginning of wisdom is the fear of the Lord. And if that person is not coming to God and approaching him according to God's design, then it's a waste of time. Verse 17, a friend loveth at all times, and a brother is born for adversity. There's always going to be a time for us to show love one to another, because we all need each other. When I'm up, then I can help someone who's down. But a few minutes later, I may be down, and that same person will have to help me gain my footing. Verse 18, a man void of understanding striketh hands and becometh surety or security in the presence of his friend. And that's just another way of saying, if we're hasty and thoughtless in making promises and vows to people, it's not a good thing, and we'll end up in not a good situation. He loveth transgression that loveth strife. This is verse 19, Proverbs 17:19. The one who loves strife loves transgression. And what is transgression? Transgression is violating or opposing God's way of doing things. And so he that loveth strife loveth transgression, or they love to disobey God, knowing that they're disobeying God, because I think it's 1 Samuel 15 says rebellion is as the sin of witchcraft, and stubbornness is as wickedness and idolatry. And so people are committing idol worship without even realizing when they are transgressing against God, and has no remorse or no feelings of embarrassment or shame. He that hath a froward or corrupt heart findeth no good, and he that hath a perverse tongue falleth into ruin or into mischief. As I said, it's just a matter of time. People get by for years doing evil upon other people, and suddenly things have changed. And this is why in Psalm number 37, we're told not to fret ourselves against evildoers, neither for us to be envious of the workers of iniquity, for they shall be soon cut off. And that word soon means suddenly they will be cut off. Verse 21, he that begetteth a fool doth it to his sorrow, and the father of a fool hath no joy. There's no explanation needed for that verse. Verse 22, a merry heart doeth good like a medicine, but a broken spirit drieth the bones. That's when people are depressed and oppressed. They can't get anything done because their spirit is broken. But a merry heart doeth good like a medicine, and a merry heart is a heart that's trusting and relying on God no matter how things are in their experience. A wicked man taketh a gift out of the bosom to pervert the ways of judgment. This man will take a bribe and just to get his way in any matter. So he defines himself as a wicked man by bribing other people to distort and corrupt the right ways of judgment. Wisdom is before him that hath understanding. And that word wisdom there, you can substitute it for Christ, is before him that hath understanding. But the eyes of a fool are in the ends of the earth. They are walking in darkness. Jesus was in the world, and the world was made by him, but the same world refused him because their deeds were evil, and they preferred walking in darkness. A foolish son is a grief to his father, and bitterness to her that bare him. A mother grieves over a son who's causing his life to be a life of foolishness. Also, to punish the just is not good. This is verse 26. Also, to punish the just or the innocent is not good, nor to strike princes for equity or for truth. It's not good to try to discredit a righteous man in order to maintain injustice toward those who are innocent. He that hath knowledge spareth his words, and a man of understanding is of an excellent spirit. That excellent spirit is the more excellent way, which is the Spirit of Christ dwelling in us. And we who have the God kind of knowledge, where we've increased in our knowledge of who God is, we don't spend a lot of time speaking idle and useless words. Even a fool, when he holdeth his peace, is counted wise. And he that shutteth his lips is esteemed or considered a man of understanding. It is good to be swift to hear, slow to speak, and slow to speak, and slow to wrath. So this concludes chapter 17 of the Proverbs. Thank you for listening. Remember to email me at bjt1125yahoo.com and continue to view my tapes, my videos from the book of Matthew, the book of Hosea, and the book of the Revelation. And I forgot to tell you about my shirt, but my shirt today says I'm an organ donor. And under here it says, I gave my heart to God. And that comes from the book of Matthew, chapter 22, verse 37, where Jesus says, the first commandment is to love the Lord our God with all our heart, mind, soul, and strength, and to love our neighbor as ourselves. So thank you for watching, and thank you for keeping me encouraged. Have a great day.